people are spending tens of thousands of dollars over a certain period of time, or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Their sales process and their decision process, the courting process is probably going to be a little bit longer, and how we put together that pricing might be a little bit more nuanced. It's going to take more effort to actually give you a number that makes sense, right?
Exactly.
So quick off the phone, we might have a range, but you're saying if they're not willing to sit down for your courting process for a longer sales cycle, maybe not worth the pursuit?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
if someone just calls and they're just wanting to know, hey, I just got a quick question, or what are you talking here with this?
Yeah.
And they're not willing to come in and have a conversation, then that's usually a red flag right there. But you want me to kind of go through what I put together
let's
here?
see what you got.
So the first thing that we have is, do they get it?
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we have a fairly complex solution that we offer, anything from website design to app development to managing Google Media to marketing automation. I mean, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, especially for anyone out there who's doing any type of consulting or professional services, I'm sure there's a lot of, like you'd already talked about, nuances in what you do. So make sure that the customer understands what you're doing. I know that sounds crazy, but there's a lot of people that think they understand what they need and they don't.
Yeah.
Because if they go in expecting one thing and you offer a different thing, then you're going to have a bad scenario later on. So the first one is, do they get it? So for us, that might be someone coming to us thinking they need search engine optimization to get ranked organically. And really what they need is pay-per-click, which is something where you have to pay for the traffic.
Yeah.
So we need to explain that and sit them down and discuss the differences between those two. So
Yeah.
make sure they get it and understand how it works. The second is, can they afford it easily? Easily, not can they just afford your product or your service? Is it something they can afford easily? Because what you don't want to do is engage in some sort of situation where a company comes to you and, you know, we have 2 months here, and if this doesn't work, then,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we're going to go out of business, or I can't meet payroll. Well, okay, there's something going on there that we can't fix,
Yeah.
or that maybe the listeners of this podcast, they can't fix for that potential customer, because clearly there's something going on in the business, and this is a last resort for them to come to you to try to put a Band-Aid on something that's bigger.
Yeah.
So make sure there's runway there, because you also want to be able to do your job. In our case, it takes a while to get to know the business, to get to know the industry, to get to know the client, to get to know how everything functions, and to put together the right solution for them on a performance standpoint. If we don't have like 4 to 6 months to do that, then we're not going to be able to put together a good solution for them. So make sure there's runway there. The third one is, do they need it? So again, that sounds like a crazy question, but do they actually need what they're asking for? And walk them through that and talk to them about that, right? So I had already given an example about maybe they don't understand the product and service they understand. Make sure that they actually need it. If they come to you and say, I need, this blue shirt here for this outfit, but really they need a white one, then you need to say, hey, no, this isn't going to fit. Like, you're wearing short sleeves, you need the long sleeves, whatever. Whatever that service is, make sure that they need it. This one sounds crazy, but are they willing to work with you?
Yeah.
That sounds like the craziest thing ever. And I'll give you a quick scenario, and I'll keep the client's name out of it, but it's a brand and it's a name that we've all heard of. They're nationally recognized. And my partner and I, Scott, were at a conference in Las Vegas, and we met a potential client there. They understood what we offered. They needed what we offered. They could afford it easily. We were super excited to get this client. And then lo and behold, after we onboard them, after we get going, the person who we were actually going to be working with wanted nothing to do with working with us. They were threatened. They felt like we were encroaching on their space. Yeah. And after the second month, they canceled the contract.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing. So now, in order to try to avoid that from happening, is in the discovery phases or courting phases, I always ask who we will be working with. Yeah. Because sometimes the decision maker is different than the person you'll be working with.
So
that's what happened there.
You had a champion or an advocate leading you to the finish line of a done deal who wasn't even going to be interfacing with you?
Correct.
Wow.
So this person had the ability to obviously hire us, but they didn't manage the process.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't technically that person's boss, but they were higher than them in the, you know, the
Sure.
corporate structure. And
Sure.
then of course that person comes back and tells them, well, we could have done all this. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, but you didn't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here. We're here to help you, to guide you through this process, because you clearly didn't understand that the stuff needed to be done.
Yeah.
So we're just here to be a partner, right? But that person took offense and
Mm-hmm.
boom, contract gone. So
Yeah.
we learned from that one. And the thing that we learned is figure out who you will be working with and try to prevent that, to make sure that they're willing to work with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would imagine that had they been brought in on the process, they could have felt some ownership over the
Mhm.
scope of work you ultimately proposed.
Mhm.
And in some cases, not all, because some people are just going to be difficult and feel threatened.
Correct.
Right. But had they had some level of ownership over the process, over the scope of service that ultimately was contracted, they would have been a little bit more comfortable with it.
Correct.
And that ownership opened them up to wanting to play ball with you.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's you know, taking the extra step, because like you had talked about earlier, it's easy to get excited. It's easy to want to close the deal right away. And
Mm-hmm.
you really got to do your due diligence. So the other one is pretty easy process or step, but just, are they legitimate or ethical?
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but I'll tell you another quick story, because we learned every step of the way.
Yeah.
When we were very early on in our consulting business, someone came to us and they got it and they could afford us, and they all the boxes checked.
Yeah.
And then in that first meeting, it sounds kind of funny to say it, but in this first meeting, one of the men from the team came in and left his sunglasses on the whole time. He didn't have like a visual impairment, like he was sitting there, and I'm like, this is kind of sketchy. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't trust this guy.
Yeah.
And sure as all heck, like a month later, the thing just blew up, and they were like really hard to work with and really argumentative, and they just seemed like they may not have been running the cleanest operation, and everything just burst into flames.
Yeah.
It was like, if we would have just taken a little bit more time to get to know them, like,
Yeah.
go with your gut, right? Like sometimes, like, not everyone's nice, not everyone's honest, not everyone's ethical.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of people, like, you know, the viewers and your listeners and myself and you, like, you just kind of assume everyone's doing good work and they're
Mhm.
honest and they're ethical. So
Mhm.
go with your gut on that.
Yeah.
And we've had opportunities before to work with adult-oriented type things, and two huge projects came our way, and I turned them down. And another one around medical marijuana. And again, it's whatever, whether you believe in it or not, but you never know how people are going to perceive that stuff, or if your employees are going to want to work on those types of things, or maybe some of your clients have issues with those things. So
Mhm.
kind of just figure out what's acceptable to you and go with your gut on that. So one, are they honest, legitimate, and ethical? And then the last one, where I told you this story about the RFP
Yeah.
story, this one like blew us away. And it sounds like the easiest thing ever. Is just, do you have an in?
Mhm.
Like, do you really have an in?
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of contracts that are out there, and a lot of RFPs that go out where governmental agencies specifically,
Yeah.
they need to have a certain amount of RFPs. Like, it's written in their rules.
Yep.
They need a certain amount of bids.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, that work's already going to someone else.
Yeah. Yep.
So before you get all excited and going through, I mean, we're going through an RFP right now. We don't usually respond to too many. We might only do a couple a year. But we have an established relationship within this potential lead.
Mhm.
Now, it doesn't mean they're going to automatically hire us, but at least we can have some insight to what's going on. So real quick story. It was a company here. Again, I'll protect the innocent. They brought 9 agencies to the table. At the time, there was only, I think, 4 of us at Lucid.
Yeah.
It was myself, my business partner. We had a third business partner for a few years, and one other employee. We were the smallest by it was ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone was on the low end, a 10 to 15 person shop. There was another agency that was bidding that had like a couple hundred.
Mhm.
But we make it all the way to the finals, because this one particular segment, this one particular client, my business partner knew inside and out.
Yeah.
So we get all the way to the finals, and we thought we were going to win this thing and just like shock the world, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we'd already beat out 8 other agencies, and all of these, like, every single one was bigger than us.
Yep.
And then they didn't choose us, and we were kind of like this all fits. Like, they get it, they can afford it, they need it, they're willing to work, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
About 6 months down the road, someone that was in that room changed jobs, called us and hired us, because they're like, hey, you guys were the best, blah, 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 blah. Really want to work with you. So then I talked to the person. I'm like, well, do you mind if I ask you a question about what happened like 6 months ago? Because still scratching my head here.
Yeah.
I thought we were the best fit, and I thought, he goes, oh yeah, the CMO of our company knew the owner of the other agency, so they were never going to choose anyone else. And I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like they literally wasted everyone's time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know why they even went through the process, because they didn't have to go to RFP.
Yeah.
So so we learned on that one, do you have an in?
Yeah.
So I'll go through them real quick. Do they get it? Can they afford you or your service easily? Do they need it? Are they willing to work with you or us or your operation? And then you find that out by getting to that, whoever that point of contact is.
Mm-hmm.
Are they ethical or legitimate, trustworthy? And then do you have an in?
Yeah.
Those are my 6 things. In my opinion, if you can go through those things, you are going to increase your chances of success and get the right type of client.
Yeah.
It's going to be harder. And I'm telling you, it's tough sometimes to tell someone no.
Yep.
But if you have the ability to be disciplined around a client criteria, if not just like that, but similar, maybe 1 or 2 of those are not applicable to you, it'll be a good thing in the long run. I can promise you that.
I think for, people who are less transactional and in a lot of ways are going into a long-term partnership with their clients, all of these things are a must.
Yeah.
I mean, to your point here on number 6 on whether or not you have an in, like the bulk of my sales experience has been to government agencies where they have to go to RFP for certain things. But I mean, there's ways to navigate that too, to figure out, we might have an in with this client for this project, but for the next one, because it's a certain size, we don't, right? And so it doesn't make sense. But not just investigating what they need and what they want, but what's it going to take to make this happen? Because they may really like you. It sounds like you had a champion in that example that you were talking about, but there was somebody else who was going to make the final decision whether or not the committee agreed with them or not.
Yeah.
Right.